Welcome back. Today I'll be talking about Alex Karp appearing on the Barron Tech Conference, the recent partnership announced between Palantir and Origin, Palantir filing an official patent, the stock set to join the Russell 3000, and I'll close by talking about Karp as the highest paid public executive for 2020. So let's get started talking about the stock. Daily performance pretty flat. We had a little bit of a rally in the morning because of Karp's appearance on the Barron Tech Conference that did appear to be a pump and a dump though. Not much material news was announced, of course. And then we had the macroeconomic activity with Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's press conference providing the update that the Fed held interest rates near zero, but expects 2 increases by late 2023, sooner than previously expected. So overall, a pretty flat day for Palantir, but good to see some continued strength, especially near the $25 level. As for ARK Invest, I think I'll check in regularly on their activity. Their buying of PLTR has been dormant since May 19th, when the stock was in the $20 range. So they have really sat back and watched as the stock has rallied $5 or 20% over the past month, helping the funds ARK-W, ARK-K pretty considerably, I would say. So not everything in this video is today's news, but I have a little catching up to do. And we know, as I just said, the stock has remained steady despite and in spite of it. So we already know the reaction to all of this is relatively positive. Oh, and I had to change the channel name. I like it. It's more unique and pays homage to Palantir's Lord of the Rings origins. Introducing Palantir Vision. Let's go. So kicking things off with the Barron Tech Conference. So Alex Karp was set to talk at the event about 20 minutes long from 11:35 a.m. Eastern Time to 11:55. This was actually a private event, or at the very least you needed an invitation from Barron's to be able to attend. Unfortunately, I was not able to get in, and I think it's a more restrictive setting, so I don't know if anyone actually was able to in the Palantir community. I did not see any videos on YouTube of that recording, so we will just have to go by what was released in the articles. The title of the event was Going Big, a discussion with the founder of Palantir on the power of big data and analytics, featuring, of course, CEO Alex Karp. Alex Karp said the company respects the retail crowd, which has been mostly bullish on its stock, just as much as it appreciates institutional investors. Karp speculated that Palantir's bold claims, as well as its plain-spoken statements as a company and about its mission, have helped to engender the confidence of individual investors. He said, "We speak in clear English about what we are going to do. Because of that, we respect the intelligence and the rigor of what is typically called individual investors." And just to interject, I don't know if he is aware, but I think many still do not consider Palantir's marketing to be quote-unquote plain English. I think they have a long way to go there, but I think the company is well understood as one which fights terrorism, supports American ideals, and generates alpha for some of the biggest businesses in the world. An outspoken executive, Karp also said that Wall Street analysts tend to poorly understand the company, often in an effort to label it. Analysts tend to butcher that, quite frankly, by breaking us up into the Frankenstein monster that they might otherwise see in an enterprise monster. So that's just a long-winded way of him saying that analysts are getting the company wrong. Reasoning by analogy, Palantir is a completely new kind of company. They're unique in what they do because how their products are offered in such varying sectors. Karp said that companies need to be more focused on software, which he said is moving from a luxury product to the thing that will determine whether you survive as an industry or as a government. So I will surely cover the original video if the recording is released, but the rest of the information was likely similar to what we've already heard recently from Karp, so I don't think we're missing out on too much, since I believe Palantir would make an official announcement if they were going to release anything material, and they would not be able to do so privately to a selected group of individuals. Moving on to the bigger news here, what I will take the majority of this episode by talking about is this Origin partnership. So let's have a look at the press release. Origin Materials and Palantir Technologies form an alliance to accelerate the world's transition to net zero carbon. This announcement was released yesterday, June 15th, 2021, and made public by Origin Materials. I do not see any such press release by Palantir themselves. They will perhaps put it out in a couple days on their own investor relations website. Anyway, Origin bills themselves as the world's leading carbon-negative materials company with the mission to enable the world's transition to sustainable materials. Over the past 10 years, they've developed a platform for turning the carbon found in non-food biomass into useful materials. They say turning materials carbon-negative has an approximate $1 trillion addressable market, and this partnership comes just ahead of Origin's $990 million merger into a public company taking place this month. This strategic alliance is expected to focus on decarbonizing the global materials supply chain. So how about an explanation on what exactly is going on here? Of course, every specific partnership that Palantir makes is not necessarily a make or break for the company or for your understanding as an individual investor, but the better we can collectively understand each one of these partnerships, the more the holistic view of Palantir comes together. The press release states, Palantir is a software company whose platforms enable organizations to optimize complex and sensitive data environments. Origin Materials plan to deploy Palantir's Foundry technology to support the acceleration of its internal operations and to help companies decarbonize their supply chains on their journey to net zero. And I thought it would be important to bring some quotes from executives on both sides of the deal, so I will highlight these now. Here's John Bizzle, co-founder and co-CEO of Origin Materials. He says, existing supply chains for physical goods are complicated, opaque, and carbon intensive. The carbon intensity of those supply chains is dominated by the raw materials, which compromise physical end market products. The combination of Palantir's data integration and modeling capability and Origin's expertise and technology for the decarbonization of physical raw materials is expected to help enable those complicated, opaque, and carbon-intensive supply chains to become well-maintained, transparent, and decarbonized. Now we have Rich Riley, the other co-CEO of Origin Materials, who says this strategic partnership with Palantir is expected to deliver significant value to our customers as they factor emissions from materials into their carbon accounting, disclosure, and reduction processes. By integrating Palantir's enterprise operating system with Origin's carbon-negative technology platform, we can help our customers optimize their decarbonization strategies across their supply chains and at the enterprise level. So I'll just jump in by saying it's really impressive how Foundry can be so specialized and customized to whatever the need of an organization is. In this case, it's a business trying to help their clients decarbonize their supply chains. And it's pretty remarkable how Foundry can be adapted to such a need to take into account the emissions through carbon accounting. And now we get to Sankar, Chief Operating Officer of Palantir, who says, we are deeply energized by Origin's meaningful process against the world's net zero ambition. Our platform is uniquely suited to support the decarbonization of complex global supply chains. Customers across dozens of industries are using Foundry to build a carbon-focused, common operating picture that allows them to track live emissions, simulate scenarios based on emerging technologies and regulations, and make real-time changes to their business. So here's Sankar really hitting home with what Foundry allows organizations and businesses to do. It's about that real-time data informing operations. And here's one last follow-up with some important further details. Origin Materials and Palantir are also exploring commercial opportunities that would bring value to their customers across a variety of industries by implementing data-driven strategies to understand, quantify, and reduce environmental impact while building a resilient and profitable business. This supply chain visibility is expected to enable carbon plans that can be applied to financial and regulatory reporting, daily operations, and multi-year business planning. As part of this new strategic alliance to decarbonize the world's global supply chain, Origin Materials will also become a new Palantir customer. So this is kind of what we've already been seeing more recently with the SPACs that Palantir's been investing in. They link up with a company because they know that Foundry will benefit that company and they'll be able to utilize Foundry in a unique way, considering they also know their product very well and know that it will continue to help that company. So it's strategic leveraged association. And now moving on to a recent patent that Palantir filed, patent number 1,035,690. So here's a brief write-up to explain what is going on and what the patent means. Palantir was issued a US patent for a mapping system with processes for creating and displaying structured geotagged data using interactive digital geographic imagery. And hopping on over to the patent filing abstract, meaning the introduction to the patent and what it is all about. A user creates a geotag for a property of an object by selecting a geographic location on an interactive digital map and selecting the property of the object from a dialog presented to the user in response to selecting the geographic location. In this way, the user can more quickly and easily create structured geotag data that can be accomplished using typical approaches requiring the user to manually enter geographic coordinates to associate a geographic location with structured data. As the article points out, Palantir's data analytics products have previously attracted controversy. A Bloomberg report in 2018 revealed that JP Morgan Chase was using Palantir tech to identify disgruntled employees by collecting emails, browser histories, transcripts of recorded phone calls, and GPS location from company-issued smartphones. So while that's true, that's also why Palantir Technologies, as a self-described technology company, is ever focused on the morality and privacy of its products. Karp, whether you agree with him or not, is on the front lines of navigating the political landscape that the company faces, so that the tech, as it continues to improve and evolve, remains in the right hands and under control. Overall, Palantir is building and innovating like great and successful companies do. Broadly, they are working on so much, in addition to their main core competencies such as Foundry, Gotham, and Apollo, and partnering with Fortune 500 companies, as well as SPACs. The patent document only continues to illustrate Palantir's ability to execute, and while you might think bringing up a patent about a GPS system is pointless, I would actually argue the contrary. It shows that Palantir is willing to go as far as they can, deep down the rabbit hole of identifying and creating the technologies that their platforms need to thrive, and that will continue to differentiate them from any that you could call competitors. Next story, Palantir is joining the Russell 3000. The headline here is that Palantir Technologies and Snowflake are among new technology companies to join the Russell 3000 index. So the question then, of course, is this a big deal? Well, if you weren't sure what companies are included in the Russell 3000, it is actually, naturally, 3,000 stocks, 3,000 of the highest market cap value stocks, representative of 98% of the whole US market, which paces well with the US stock market returns. And these changes are not yet effective until June 28th after the market opens. Ultimately, this is not a surprise nor a very big deal. It has a little impact on the business and will not affect the stock in any material capacity. It's a small step for Palantir as it continues to grow much larger and will, in my opinion, join more exclusive indexes in the future. And last story for today, we're going to talk about Karp being the highest paid executive and a little bit about insider selling. So I know this is not a new story, but it's something worth mentioning considering you may have seen the headline more recently, especially by now. And today we had Joe Lonsdale, co-CEO of Palantir Technologies, tweeting out, quote, "The best paid Fortune 500 CEO of 2020 was born of an African American mother," fighting back a little bit, saying hashtag my co-founder is a baller. And just jumping in here, I think it's a little unfair that Karp gets targeted for simply being the highest paid. He's gone on a long time without significant compensation despite putting his life, the last 17 years or so, into this company, and that's just now getting realized. Of course, he didn't have to be the highest paid. He could have been less than that, but that's pretty much semantics to try and nail this guy down for having a big pay year when the stock went DPO. JG, friend of the channel, summed it up quite well on Twitter. The value Alex and Palantir bring by stopping terrorists or saving millions of lives during a pandemic is worth more than $1.1 billion. Some CEOs get paid way more to collect your private data and sell it to the highest bidder. What do we get in return? So this video is long enough as it is to have to counter the whole argument about insider selling again, but as I see it, it's just how compensation is aligned at Palantir, since it is, of course, stock-based. He's been selling now and previously on an automatic schedule, meaning he has no control over it, as you'll see from this official NASDAQ information. He talked about the feeling of relief he has had being able to provide liquidity to early employees in his recent public interview. But going forward, Palantir is going to continue to aggressively promote stock-based compensation to retain top talent, as also discussed in the interview. What does that mean in the simplest of terms? Palantir management is confident the value of its stock will deliver significant returns to employees beyond what it could possibly afford to pay them in today's currency. So those are just my thoughts on that story. And that'll do it for today and this first episode of Palantir Vision. I'll see you tomorrow for the Thursday, June 17th edition. Quick reminder to drop a like if you found all my research and reporting anything helpful. Until next time.